Good day, Amy, Ben. Who else was in? Did you say Sally was in?
Sally and Sister Squad.
Sister Squad was earlier, I think. I don't know if they'll still be in, but hello, everyone. How are you all? All the love from here in Istanbul, Turkey. This is really just a bit of an update, tell you what was going on. You saw we put some video ups through the week. This weekend wasn't quite as ballistic as last weekend because there was lots of notice that we had to stay indoors all over the weekend. Despite that, there's still people out on the streets, but few, and they're all looking a bit cagey. So yeah, there's still we've got this 48 hours. Nobody's allowed outside their houses again. We believe it's going to happen again next weekend. Who knows? It's all a bit pie in the sky, but I think it may happen again next weekend. So how are you all? We're super. Was it Amy or Sally who said that? Are we still in Istanbul? Amy, we are. Yes, I see all the cats out on the street. There's loads of cats out on the street today. They're all looking around like, where's everybody gone? And people are sat out on their balconies enjoying the sort of fresh air. It's a little bit chilly, just the edge of sort of winter still on there. There's sort of that late sort of that early spring, should I say? So it's the air's really nice. It'd be a beautiful day to go out for a walk, but we're not allowed. We're stuck indoors, and yeah, we're not allowed outside the house, and we're not allowed outside for 48 hours. And I think tomorrow we might try and do another live stream. I might do that bread that I talked to you about before. We might just sit and make some bread and have a chat. So if anyone wants to join me for that, just make sure you've got some bread, some salt, and that your taps work. That's all you need. And we're going to just...
You might need flour instead of bread.
Thanks, Michelle. Yeah, that's a good idea. Forget about the bread, unless you could sort of reverse osmosis back to flour. You need some flour. Ideally bread flour. That would be the best thing. It just got the right level of elasticity in it, and or gluten. Gluten's like a naughty word. You shouldn't say it. It's got the right amount of gluten in it. It makes better flatbreads. But if you've only got all-purpose flour, that's right. We'll do that tomorrow. Same, maybe similar sort of time.
Probably, yeah. So Chris says
hi, Chris. Hi, Chris. So this one is a full live. The last one was I had to pre-record because I thought we'd take you out around the streets of Istanbul. I hope you enjoyed it. And Michelle and I just wanted to show you we were sort of experimenting with holding the camera forward, and then I did that talk over. And I've had a few people say they quite liked it, just watch it in the listen to it in the background or watch the video and when they're chilling.
So we might. JM603 says hi, Steve.
JM603, hi. How are you? So good. We probably will end up chatting a bit about the corona. I'm a little sick of it, as probably most of you are. I'm it's getting boring. Hi Petri, how are you? Now there's 16 in at the moment, so if you all want to say hello, if you've got a moment, if you're not too shy, just say hello and hit the thumbs up while you're in there as well, because apparently that does something. But anyway.
So JM603 says, good, thanks, new username. He's Jonathan Mayhew. Remember Jonathan Mayhew?
Oh, yeah, I do remember Jonathan. So
JM603.
New username, or okay. There's a few of the good old subscribers that have been around for a while, changed their names over time. And it does always catch me out. Around Christmas time, I always see, what is it, bread and butter or bread sandwich. They used to have a different name at one time. Always makes the Christmas puddings. Along me every Christmas they make Christmas puddings, and they always sort of jump in and say hello, but once or twice they change their names.
So Petri says, good, I started a new job.
Oh, good. Michelle's there. Amy.
Hi everyone.
And yes, that's a beer. I've got another beer. I only bought 3, as I said the other day. I thought I might as well save them for the live stream, so we're going to go with a red Beaumonti red ale today. So cheers, me dear.
JM603 says, thanks, yes, I'm the guy who fell in love with your Christmas cake and have been with you ever since.
Beautiful. Look, I really love the fact some of the commenters that come on, I've known them for years and years now, and I probably have upset a few of you for our opinions on what's going on, and some of you not. But trust me, I think in today's day and age, it's time we stopped every time. I've got lots and lots of friends that I totally disagree with their opinions on this, that, and the other, but they're still good friends, And but then nowadays there seems to be this element that if somebody doesn't agree with you, that people spit their dummies out and get very upset, very aggressive. We saw this with the Brexit sort of thing that was going on. We're seeing this with the Trump regime. You can have. I've got some very good friends who've got ridiculous political and social ideas, but they're still really good friends. So come on, we need to just accept that there's a freedom for people to have different opinions, and I am very opinionated, I know that, and I do try to cage that up a lot and not push it out too much, but that's going to happen. And just today I had someone commenting on the channel who's been with me for a long time, but it was a sort of a slightly embittered comment, and I just felt, oh man, all the years we've exchanged conversations from the early days. I think when the first time, maybe when we were doing clotted cream or something like that, and then they start getting upset with me because I don't agree with necessarily what's going on.
So JM says, agree totally, it's a shame everyone has to get upset about their differences when we all have a lot more in common than we think.
We do, and that's what I've always said when we travel. People say, I have got, by the way, I'm probably a little bit jaded because my Chinese videos at the moment are getting 100 comments a day, so venomous, so aggressive. So I mean, it's got to the stage where I have to just delete them. I don't delete them. I leave a lot of it up unless it's really foul, which some of it is. Hi, Tammy. But that stuff is getting me down a little bit because you guys won't see that from my side of things. But I have to, before I see your "Hi Steve, how you doing" video, I've got to see about 200 comments about China, and there's such venom around it. It seems such a shame. I've said to people before, when we were in China, the Chinese people we met in China were like you and I, just lovely, lovely people. Yes, they have a government that none of them can relate to, but we all know that feeling. Very few of us feel that our governments relate to us in any way whatsoever. So it's not their fault, And I think to direct that at anyway.
So Chris says, can you disable the comments on the China videos?
I could, Chris, but it would disable all the good stuff that comes out of it, and I also feel that it's like I'm very, very strongly a believer in freedom of speech, whatever that speech is, and if you try to drive it underground, then people aren't able to reason, and there's a chance that some of the comments that go up there, people can reason with people. Maybe they just feel a little bit ashamed, a little bit sort of dirty for the way they're speaking, and to disable it just means it moves somewhere else. And no, I never ever delete. I do delete some of the stuff that's just literally so. Not even the fact that it's racist. I don't mind the fact that people are being particularly unpleasant, but I do mind the language that's used in some of them. It's just too much. Anyway, let's cheer things up.
So Chris says, is it another lockdown there? Are they just randomly locking down?
Yeah, just randomly locked down. There was a bit of a thing going out. We had several people contact us to say, and I think one of the comments in the recent stream that we did said that they may be locking down for 4 days. Was it 4 days?
4 days.
Next week. So they were going to, and this isn't lockdown like many of you are experiencing, where you just can't go out, but you can go for a walk, take your dog out for a walk, to go to the toilet, and go shopping once. So this is complete. You're not allowed outside the front door. So there was a lot of talk about us being shut in for 4 days next week on top of the somebody resigned, Tammy. Let me just, sorry, I bounce around, Tammy. Let me just finish this a little bit. So there was somebody who said to me, we're going to be locked in for 4 days. So that would be effectively 2 days, and we'd have 2 days allowed out, and then 4 days stuck in, or 3 days allowed out and 4 days stuck in. But I've actually subsequently found on the government side that was a fictitious thing that was being put around social media, and it was nonsense. But having said that,
who knows?
It could still happen. And yes, the minister responsible for last week's debacle, and it was a complete mess, to be honest. As I told you in many of the posts, 20 million Turkish people in Istanbul went out shopping within sort of 11 p.m. and 12 p.m. I mean, the streets were just chock-a-block with people. It was ridiculous, and there was no social distancing. It was a real mess and a really poor political call at the very least, to see so many Hi there, moms. Moon over Miami. There's Michelle again. Give a little wave to everyone. Sorry, we've only got a tiny little table here, and it's a little alcove. It's quite small, otherwise Michelle would sit in. So yes, it was a bit of a mess, and the minister for that resigned. And we get a bit of a laugh, and I probably shouldn't say this openly, but I'm going to anyway because I really don't care. So the minister resigned, and apparently so much uproar on Twitter demanding that he doesn't resign because he's such a lovely person that the prime minister said no, we're not accepting your resignation. Now I actually think that is a complete fabrication, because everybody, I think, was really annoyed, very angry with the outcome. And I don't think anybody was demanding that he should stay, but obviously, jobs for the lads and all that. There was no chance that was going to happen, and that's kind of enforced the problem we have at the moment. That maybe that wasn't such a bad thing. Let's have another go, and so they are having another go, and we do have a problem. Maybe I'm personally much more liberal about the whole thing. I think we should have handled this a lot more sensible. Now I'm going to upset people. Please, again, listen to my earlier comments. We're all allowed to have differences of opinions. I think people are, and I know a lot of people are going to say to me, yeah, but people aren't all that smart. But people are smart enough to know to social distance generally, and the ones that don't. The media always focus is their camera. If the media could go out, if a media reporter, the BBC, ABC, American, Australian Broadcasting Company, any of those guys, they go out with their cameras and they can see 6,000 people all keeping 1.5 meters away from each other, but they see 3 people sat on a picnic cloth having something in the park. They will put their cameras there. They will not. Nothing could force that camera to turn around to everybody else, the other 99.999% of people that are social distancing. So they will just focus on that, and that's why we get this sort of like disproportionate fear that everybody's a nincompoop and a complete waste of space, and they are not. And I think it would have been a lot easier just to say to people, social distance, clean your hands, be careful when you're out. And certainly if you're feeling any sickness at all and I know there'll be people saying you can carry this thing without symptoms, but, to take precautions if you're feeling sick. And that's my opinion. And there are countries, for instance, Sweden has actually pretty much done that. A few other countries have basically kept their schools and gatherings together, and those are the countries that have the least affected populations. So it does sort of scream out somewhat. Michelle's disconnected our Wi-Fi. She's not on my phone Wi-Fi. She's on the building Wi-Fi, which is rubbish.
Keep talking.
So
We'll do this.
we do get dropouts every now and again. So yeah, it was. Yeah, the resignation was just a bit of theatrical stuff over Miami. So yeah, it's for us. It's all good. I do feel a little bit like I've said many times before. I feel desperately sorry for small businesses and families and people that are very affected. And I know people in back home in Australia that are being dreadfully affected by this. Michelle and I, we feel kind of lucky that we're in a healthy environment. It's a pretty city. We're still able to get out and walk occasionally. It has really messed up our heads as far as planning. Today we've been talking about what do we do next, but what do you do next? It's hard to what do you do next when hashtag what do you do next when you can't make any plans. You don't know if you're going to be stuck here for another month. We've just renewed our contract for this place for another month. We don't know whether we'll be here for another month, whether we'll be here for another 3 months, another 6 months. It's really, I don't think so. But it's very, very difficult to plan anything. But that's about as hard hit as we feel we are. I'm probably a little bit tired of.
Just got my internet back.
Michelle's back online. Throw those comments.
No, it's fleeting.
Fleeting. Byron, how are you? 31st birthday tomorrow. Happy birthday tomorrow, Byron. Byron, I will wish you a happy birthday tomorrow. I will do a live stream. I've just been talking about it. We'll do, I can't have any birthday cake with you, mate, because we are locked in. I can't even go out, but I am going to bake some simple bread, make some simple bread, not bake. I haven't got an oven. And I'm going to talk you through it. many of you may know this already, but I'm going to talk you through it so we can some of the principles of how this bread is made, and we're just going to have a chat and a bit of fun, really. So we'll do that. Yeah, Byron's birthday. I never miss it if I can.
Claire says, hi from the UK, fourth week of lockdown, at least another 2 to go. Istanbul looks amazing and the people seem lovely. As a result of your videos, I've added it to my list of places to visit.
Yeah, Istanbul's not a bad place, not a bad place to be at all. And you know, I've got some friends that are still back in India, and they also are doing fine. On the face of it, again, like I said to you, the media show the worst case scenarios almost anywhere. But if you talk to people directly, then they're not really as bad, perhaps, as we're seeing it online. My best advice was don't watch any of the mainstream medias. I mean, they're just basically fueling misery as far as I can see. So
Wanderer says, how long are you staying in Turkey?
Well, that's what we're just saying, Wanderer. We don't know. I mean, we came here for a sort of 2-3 month tour of Turkey. We've been here that length of time, at least. I'm going to try this. Anyone else having a little beer with me or something? If you're like Michelle, a complete teetotaler, I perfectly accept that. And I actually don't drink a lot. This is my third beer now with 3 live streams, and probably my third beer this year. Hopefully this one won't go straight to my head. They're big bottles, as you can see. Give it a try. I might explain what it's like. Oh, look, not allowed for pregnant ladies, look. No driving. Got to be over 18, and no pregnant ladies. And many of you will remember that actually drinks like Guinness was given on, I think, even given on the NHS to pregnant ladies in the day. So when Guinness was originally, I think stouts were given to pregnant women as a fortification. So how things have changed in our nanny states where nothing goes. So that's a red. Wouldn't mind a red wine, actually. I do. I'd probably prefer wine to beer in many respects. Any other comments there, Michelle?
Well, Petri was saying there was a rally somewhere in the US having an anti-social distancing rally in other cities. Are trying to open the city because they don't want to stay at home.
Yeah, it's hard, and that's what I'm saying. Cheers, Sally. It's a contentious topic. I think that cheers then, Amy, a cup of tea. The more I say, the more I seem to alienate people, but I'm very much of the opinion that people should be able to exercise and go out. They certainly should be able to go safely to the shops. I probably would go a lot further than most, but I certainly think those rights are important. But I see no reason why you can't walk. I mean, I would challenge anybody across the world, any medical officer, to say that walking with some distance from somebody out in the streets could do anything to you better than harm you in any way whatsoever. And I do understand there are some people that just cannot get their heads around that. But anyway, it's always going to be contentious. If I was to speak my mind very openly, I'd probably alienate 99% of you, because I'm very,
and he agrees with you, says true.
Very suspicious about what's going on at the moment. Somebody had a go at me again today about the numbers, and not a go, but a lot of the figures that we're being shown are do remember they're almost unverifiable figures as well. When they talk about cumulative figures, you're going to find those figures are going to change. And what will happen in about 6 months' time, when you're all just sort of busy going to your Ibiza holidays and really not, and things will go back to normal, trust me, they will go back to normal, but it will have a very big effect on social interactions and social behaviors. It's going to change a lot of things, but things will get back to normal. And in 6 months' time, 8 months' time, when they put the figures out and you're watching your latest episode of this or that, and they say, oh, by the way, we said this, and actually we've corrected it to this, people go, huh? Oh well, that's we were watching. There's a beautiful. I don't know if any of you've been watching Sunderland Till I Die. It's great on Netflix if you get a chance to watch it. I'm not a big football fan, but it's a fantastic series. And I remember there was one particular episode where the manager wanted to get 40,000 people in the stadium to beat a certain record. And he was getting really angry with the staff at the front office, saying to them basically how many people I've got to announce it half time to the crowd. And he said, "Tell me the number." And they said, "We're not sure if we can get the number to you because it's hard to calculate the exact number." And he said, "I don't want the exact number. Just give me a rough number so I can say it out. If I got to apologize tomorrow and say I made a mistake, doesn't matter. I just want to tell the crowd that there were over 40,000 people and just tell me." And so they said, "Okay, yeah, it was over 40,000. He made an announcement." But it reminded me a little bit of this. Sometimes these, you get where I'm going with this? They want to give out a figure. They've got to give, how many have died today? This. Is it being verified? It doesn't matter if it's been verified. Just give a number. We need a number. And these numbers are going to change quite considerably. I remember, I've talked about this before, I remember this almost like exact thing happening when I lived in Hong Kong, but it was the social media. We didn't have really Twitter and Facebook and Instagram. We didn't have all this stuff at the time, but the same thing was happening, exactly what's happening now. The numbers are probably identical. And nothing. I tell you, when the first bird flu came out of China, I don't want us to talk about this.
Yeah, so JM said, "Would love a beer." It's 10:16 a.m.
10:16? Was that the Magna Carta? No, that was 10:66.
Wait until midday so I can feel better about myself.
Yes. Well, we are 5 o'clock in the evening, a little bit later then. We're not talking about that anymore.
Amy said, having a cup of tea, I think you said that. And Sally says, "Cheers." And Wanderer says, "Have you visited the Easter Turkey?"
First one to look it up and tell me. No, I haven't been to the Easter Turkey. We've only been to Istanbul.
We got stuck here.
This sticky, a little gelatinous, it's full of walnuts inside. I don't know if you can see in that jelly. This is something I bought yesterday. It's like almost like a sweet salami. So it's hung on a string, just like that, ding, ding, ding. It's got a string going all the way through, and it's a little bit...
Very strange thing, Annie. Yes, it
a
is.
bit like a fruit leather, Michelle said, but it isn't sweet like a fruit leather.
I'm going to get you a plate to put it on, because it's going to be sticky.
I'll tell you what, Michelle, because it really is sticky. I don't want to hold it any longer. Could you trim a little bit off, and you've got to sort of cut it. I'll just show Michelle because she hasn't cut it yet. I've done it. You've got to kind of cut it not all the way through, and then slide it off. Oh, it's like holding treacle.
Put it on the plate. It's got a string in the middle, hasn't it?
Anyone can look that up. Anyone look up and tell me what that is. How would you describe that? Turkish, sweet. Tammy, do you know? You're pretty well travelled in your food. I don't know what it's called, and I've never seen it before. Turkish sweet sausage with walnuts. I know the French name. This is the problem sometimes. Inside, and I think that the sort of gluten stuff it does have figs, I think, or it has a fig in the gelatin. So first one to come up with the name, and Michelle can verify it then on Google. Tammy hasn't seen it before. Yeah, this colour, do you know, we talked about this before, Chris. I never liked this colour on me, but Michelle does, so I'm wearing it. I like bright colours, but I never thought the yellow kind of suited me very well. But Michelle says it does. Chocolate salami, I remember that. Oh gosh, I think I might have made it at one time, Tammy, and I don't know if I ever made it. I don't think I made a video on it. No, but I think I probably saw your video at the time. I thought, oh, that looks good. What Tammy's doing, I'm gonna give that a try. Actually, Tammy or Yo-Yo Max, no, I know, but Tammy, I've made a few of your delicious, sticky, sweet treats over time that I've never done videos on, but I've just done them for the sheer hell of it, because it's a diet-free zone, and we've got to enjoy things, haven't we, now and again. But look, Michelle's just cut some off.
Okay, so Wanderer said,
Eric, how are you, mate?
I don't know how to say it. S-U-C-U-K.
Google it and see if they've got it right.
Well, I've got two names. Hang on.
Not said shukran. So anyway, it looks like a big gelatine
Yeah.
with nugget. Someone got
Okay,
it?
so they call it Sevisil Sukuk.
Wanderer. Sucuk. I reckon it'd be sucuk
Sucuk.
because the
Probably
C.
Chevishil.
Chevisli sucuk. Maybe?
Okay, so it's a traditional Georgian cuisine candle-shaped candy.
Oh, it's a can. Yeah, it's
The
a
main
candle.
ingredients are grape must, nuts and flour, almonds, walnuts, hazelnuts and chocolate, and sometimes raisins are threaded onto a string and dipped in thickened grape juice or fruit juices.
Do you hear that?
And dried.
Say it a
in
bit
the
louder,
sugar-
Michelle, just in case you want to come and just read that out over here.
Okay. Oops.
Right over here. Michelle will tell you what this is, and I'll
Okay.
tell you what it tastes like.
This is what the wiki says. It's a traditional Georgian cuisine candle-shaped candy. The main ingredients are grape, nuts and flour. Almonds, walnuts, hazelnuts and chocolate, and sometimes raisins are threaded onto a string, dipped into thickened grape juice or fruit juices and dried in the shape of a sausage.
So you can see it's dipped like a candle.
So it's different coloured ones as well.
Ceviz sucuk.
Different coloured.
And they're all different colours. If you look on the Wikipedia, you can see them. Well, I've got a favourite little shop down here who does all sorts of nuts. And he does some beautiful pistachio nuts. And I'm a big fan. I love pistachios.
I'll pronounce Ceviz Sucuk.
Sucuk. So,
Jonathan says, signing off, kids are getting restless, bye, catch you later.
take care, Jonathan. Jonathan Mayhew.
Is it called Lockham? Let's have a look.
Lockham. Michelle will search that one for you. Got some lovely walnuts inside. French noir.
No, it's different to that.
So no, the first comment was absolutely spot on. That was Wanderer. Well done. You win my admiration. And I also I go and get a bag of, these are local Turkish grown from a city here. I forget the name, sorry, I should know all this stuff, but pistachios, they're delicious. Michelle, she gets a little bag of fruit. Wow, have you got those fruits?
Oh yes, those little ones.
Whilst you're being clever.
And Jewel Living Essence says, no, Lockham is something different, as does Moon over Miami. No, if I can find them in my
Now,
little bag.
she's eaten lots of them. Look, she's gone through her bag because she's greedier than I am. Look how she's got left just that.
Excuse me, my bag was smaller,
But
it's heavier.
in here, and this is something I've never seen. I don't know if the camera will pick it up because
I'm trying to find a more defined one.
it's like a raisin. Where's the camera? It's like a raisin, but it's actually
Maybe a bit more.
that one. Yeah, that one's probably better, Michelle. So it's like a white. Can you see the little pieces? It's like a white blackberry, with the little tiny little what's the name? A bit like a mulberry, but a white mulberry. And it has a stalk. Some of them have a little stalk coming out the top. And they're in their mixed bags of mixed fruit. I've never seen it, but if you see, if I don't know if you can see, but if I just pull it apart, each one of those little particles, I can't, they're like little berries, tiny little seed pods.
Okay, so your pistachios are Antephistiges.
Possibly. There are a couple of areas. He's got two types of pistachios, both from Turkey, but he tells me these are the best ones, and I must agree they're lovely. Now, the first time I really had really delicious pistachios was actually in the USA.
Oh, that pistachio farm.
Pistachio
That's,
farm.
that's
Now,
gorgeous.
eating this, it tastes, because normally in a bag of mixed fruit, you've got she's mainly got hazelnuts, cashew nuts, cranberries and raisins, and these things. So they've got a little little seeds all over them, like a little blackberry. I have no idea what it is, but it tastes delicious. It looks like it's a flower almost, and it's got a lovely sort of figgy taste, not as crunchy as fig. It's called a, okay, is that Wanderer put that one up? No, Chris has put that up.
No, that's the sausage thing.
Oh, that's the sausage
So,
thing.
Pan Oz says Turkish Dut White Mulberry. Could be.
That sounds likely. It looks like it looks like a very tiny mulberry. Excuse me.
Mm-hmm. Compassion Speak says the colour T-shirt looks nice on you, Steve. The county sausage sounds good.
Yes, and it so that little, look up that the white, the proper name.
Yeah.
Never seen it before, and it's just chucked in the mixed fruit, like we should know what it was. And I looked at them, I thought that's weird. Ben, the weather is gorgeous today. It's like a lovely sort of spring breaking into summer day. So let me just show you outside. Oops, let me just turn the camera around so you can see. Where's the...
Yep, 100% Turkish white mulberry.
Turkish, you people are so clever. It's a mulberry. Cat also says cat. It looks like a mulberry as well. So actually at the end of it you can see somebody just sat. You might not be able to see them that well, but the people are sat on their balconies there getting a bit of sunshine. And actually just before I put the camera up, one of the local dustbin lorries went past, because the people that are on the streets all over are the bin lorries.
Yep, and the postman was out this morning, wasn't he?
And the postman was up and down the street delivering mail. So
Wanderer says time to take a trip from Adana, then Gaziantep, then Antakya, and further east if you have time. The real food is out east.
well, I would love to. Michelle, can you make a note of those
I will
places?
do. Yes, I'll copy
Because while Istanbul, I would say, is a really good visit if anyone ever gets the chance. I know Tammy comes over this way occasionally. She's been down to the Italian side. I don't know if you've ever been to Turkey, Tammy. I don't recall you going to Turkey, but well worth a visit. Lovely, lovely place, lovely people.
So everybody's saying mulberry. Cat Ryan says mulberry. Moon over Miami says mulberry. All berries, very healthy. Turkish cuisine, very underrated, very natural and healthy.
Yeah, Turkish cuisine is very good. They're very closely linked with this regional sort of cuisine, whether you're talking about sort of Bulgarian, sort of Greek. You know, there's a lot of animosity between the Greeks and the Turkish. So, you know, one people will say, you know, this food comes from our country, this food comes. So there's a lot of bickering, a bit like there is between, say, the Kiwis and the Australians, the Canadians, the Americans, the English and the Scots, Indians, Pakistans.
So we didn't get our mulberries this week, did we?
No, because the weekend shuts down our beautiful market where we can get all our fresh fruit. So we lucked out. We got some strawberries from our little guy at the bottom. So this here.
So Tommy said never been to Turkey, but would like to watch a YouTuber called the Canadian Cooking Canuck. He's a Macedonian, and his videos about his country.
This whole region, we were going to do a lot more of it. We intended to come to Turkey, Georgia, Bulgaria. We were going to make our way. We were going to start in Georgia, Tbilisi in Georgia, and work our way through to Europe that way. We decided probably to be honest, by flights. It's often just, you know, flight to Georgia costs 200, flight to Turkey costs 100, and you tend to say, okay, we go to Turkey. I'm not 100% sure why we came this way, but I do think that a lot of that actually, Tammy, is going to be knocked on the head, as we say, not done, because I'm not sure how long we're going to be here, to be honest. That's the reason, how long we're going to be in Turkey. I mean, technically our visa will run out while we're here. The Turkish government have said that they will allow people to stay on longer. I hear children.
Moon over Miami says, "Hi, I'm Greek with a father born in Turkey."
That sounds like children playing in the street.
Or is it a cat?
No, it's a child.
It's a child.
I think they're playing on the balconies.
Probably.
It's nice.
Full stop.
Children are not allowed out at all. It's against the law, technically, but they do go out. But you didn't hear that here.
So The Compassion Speak said, I heard Turkey was a nice place to visit, had a couple of friends there. Michelle has a lovely accent. You guys be safe whenever you're allowed to travel.
Well, when we get to the end of this sort of lockdown, I think we'd like to explore. It's actually coming up to Anzacs.
Yes, next week I think.
Anzac Day,
26.
which is an Australian sort of remembrance day for the Anzacs, the troops that were here in Turkey, in Gallipoli, and we were hoping to go and sort of pay tribute there and visit that area, but it's not going to happen now. So
Yo-Yo says, I retire in 3 years or so. The world needs to sort out this virus thing by then so I can travel where I please. Yes, and we'll be Turkish.
We will be Turkish citizens by then, Tammy, so you can come and stay with us. They're already having mentioned that people who have had the virus, there are many tens of thousands of people that have had this, probably even hundreds of thousands that have had this virus that now have already got the antibodies in their system, so they will not suffer if they catch it a second time round. That's already been pretty much proven by science. So I think this particular virus will be just part and parcel of life. What you know, by your 3 years, Tammy. But who's to say another one might not come along and mess everything up? We do have to be a bit more vigilant.
Chris Garden says, what's your favourite bread to bake? Love your no-knead Pyrex recipe.
Bread to bake. Probably I really love to bake a baguette. If I have a bread that I really enjoy doing, it's a baguette. I did a sourdough de bec. I did a sourdough baguette on the channel. That's a really nice baguette, but I like baguettes. I also like doing what you've never seen me make them, but I like what's called a cob roll, and a cob roll is what I sort of spent a lot of my teenage and early 20s eating cob rolls. It's a simple white roll, not crusty hard, but crusty soft, with a little. It's a small round roll with a little knob on top, so it's kind of got like a double stacked roll, little thing, and we call them cob rolls. They do have other names around the world, but it's because it's like a little cob cottage.
Wanderer says, enjoyed the chat off to start dinner, health and happiness, and the best of travels.
No worries. I'm sorry I can't see the comments too well as they flick up, so if you miss a comment, you can always say them, but Michelle hopefully will be picking them up.
So Tammy says, if I knew I wouldn't be one of the severe cases, I would purposely lick some door handles to get it over with.
That's the problem, Tammy. You know that.
Or wait for a vaccine.
Yeah, there'll be a vaccine out soon enough. It is a very similar virus to the influenza virus in many ways. Even the serious health industry people are saying very much the same. So they are working on a vaccine for it, but you know, vaccine or not, if you're not healthy, if you're elderly, any of these things, a common cold can kill you quite easily, and actually most people do eventually end up dying. Sad to sort of talk about this, from pneumonia brought on by sort of common colds, common flu and things, and that's what's aggravating this thing and aggravating the numbers. Certainly in Italy, the numbers have been heavily aggravated by the fact in northern Italy there's a strong bias towards pensioners in that area. So those figures will come out eventually. You'll be fine.
So Chris says the lockdown has been extended to the 3rd of May here in Bangalore. Hey, I've made my Anzac cookies already.
I was trying to see if I could find that guy that sells the nuts. I was trying to see if I could find some oatmeal. I haven't been able to find any yet. I might have baked some oatmeal cookies, and I might have actually even made some golden syrup because I can.
So, the other Chris says, is that the same as the English cottage loaf?
It's actually an English loaf. It's an English roll. It comes from the English style cottage, and I used to have them in a little place that I used to frequent quite recently and quite frequently in the New Forest in Hampshire, and little bakery there. I think it was Jennings the baker, cob rolls. It would not have been Jennings, actually, I'm not sure, but Jennings definitely made one of the best lardy cakes that I've ever had, and I've got that recipe on my channel. If you want to have lardy cake that tastes heavenly, check that out. Anyway, let's try this. What's the name again of this? Now we've talked so long, I've babbled on so long, forgot the name, but so
whatever it's called. Cat K's just made your flatbread recipe, amazing and so simple.
It's quite nice. Be quiet a minute, Michelle.
Sorry.
So yeah, it's not grape like the US grape flavors. It's more like a figgy gelatin, not overly sweet. Quite plain, not super flavoursome, but you've definitely got the walnuts in there. I like it. I mean, I wouldn't eat lots of it, and because it isn't super sweet, there's not a lot of sugar in that. It's probably not that addictive. You wouldn't be sort of like munching, but it's a lot of fun.
So I just said Cat K made your flatbread recipe.
Thank you, Cat Kate.
And Ben S said lockdown has been extended for another 3 weeks in the UK. I doubt the lockdown will be fully lifted throughout the summer. I was planning to go back to Australia in September. I'm hoping I still can if things are more settled by then.
I think you'll be all right for September, Ben.
Depends whether the Australians let you in.
No, I don't think there'll be big issues to going into Australia. I think you're going to see some pretty big backpedaling going on in the next 6 weeks. So, but it's the damage is done. I mean, the damage. Forget the virus and the people. Yes and no. Sorry, no. Don't forget. But don't take that out. The damage has been done to a lot of the tourism and flight industry already. Somebody said to me that they thought that would drive up the prices, but it won't. I'm going to actually stick my neck out on a block for this. When the airlines come back online, the last thing they're going to be doing is offering sort of $1,000 flights to from London to Paris to a nation of people that are already, I'm talking to Ben directly here, that are already hard hit financially. So it's like the markets will actually drive the price of the flights possibly to the lowest prices they've ever been. That's my prediction. That's what I stand by. Most people are predicting the other way around. It'll be they're trying to recoup their costs, but actually people are not going to come out of this recession not on numbers. I mean, some of us might be thinking, oh, it hasn't affected us financially that bad, but I tell you, across the board, it's affected people financially dreadfully, and they aren't going to be looking at the end of this thing about sort of, oh, I know, let's go on a holiday somewhere, but the prices have gone up 3 times the cost. Oh well, let's go anyway. They're not going to be doing that. So if the planes want to be taken off the ground and not empty, they will be very quick, and they will be heavily subsidized as well. The airlines are going to be massively subsidized with money that unfortunately coming from governments, and that will keep that down. But let's hope less people are flying. I love traveling. I dislike immensely the flying bit of it. I hope less people are flying after all this. Won't harm.
So Fraser Hard Metal says, on my second batch of your brown sauce recipe, I can't leave it alone.
Thanks, Fraser. Brown sauce. People often say to me, brown sauce? Why is it brown sauce? That's what we call it. It's brown sauce, daddy sauce, HP.
Brown sauce.
In America, it's called, they have a sauce called A1, which is very similar to our brown sauce, or HP, or daddy sauce, or Tutti Frutti. I don't know if any of you remember that one. So yeah, it's delicious. It's basically, if you were to take Branston pickle, wash all the pickle out of it and just keep the sauce, it's not dissimilar, is it? It's like the brown stuff in the Branston pickle, and it is very similar.
So Chris Garden says, how are you doing in Australia? Don't hear much on the media about it here. Are they locked down?
They are. They're locked, not like this, not allowed to go outside. I mean, my daughter just moved apartment, so she's been, they're limited to how often they can.
No more than groups of 2.
Small groups necessary. Shopping is a little restricted, but people are able to go out and shop. It'll be much the same as you're getting. Do you know what? No one country is saying, yeah, you know what they're doing in the UK, or they're doing in the US. Let's do something completely different. They're all following. They're all generally towing the line and doing very similar things. The rules that are dedicated to Australia and the rules that are dedicated to the US and Germany and countries like that is pretty much the same rules we have here in Turkey. It's the level of adherence to the rules that seems to vary. Some of these sort of older sort of more traditional communities that have got more sort of stronger family values. I'm being, selective with my words here, but it's these people these countries like Turkey, which have got stronger family traditions, stronger sort of daily shopping. Countries like India, where they go out daily to shop rather than actually. Am I always looking off to the side? I think I am, because the camera's over that side. Even on a phone. So where they have a tradition of shopping daily. In some countries, I've spoken with somebody here, and they say a lot of people still don't have the big refrigeration units in their homes that we expect. So to say to people, you can't go out completely, it's trickier.
So Edward Owens, great name.
I think Edward Owens commented on one of the other videos recently.
Need to stimulate a return to air travel, yes, low prices.
It will be. It won't be just air travel. It will be all manner of things. Hotel getaways, package tours. Everyone will be trying to massage the industry back to life. The problem is, it's whether or not there'll be a certain amount of people that don't want to travel. It's never going to put Michelle and I off changing what we do. Never. It couldn't even. It's not going to have the slightest change. As I say, I've seen these sort of things in the past. Many people might dispute that, but I've seen virtually identical things happen in the past, and I know how quickly they pass. The big difference is here is just how the media has got hold of it and what they've been able to create with this. And it's maybe a little testament to the way social media has gone. For example, if we take the last sort of SARS outbreak or the last swine flu epidemic, you haven't got to go back that far. I was going to grab my smartphone. Oh, I'm talking to it. You haven't got to go back far, not many years before these phones were not commonplace. They weren't commonplace, and people weren't on Facebook and Twitter on their phone every time they got on the subway and they sat down. They weren't using this sort of medium more than they bother to watch TV. So this is the big difference here is the way in which news is spread and the way in which news, and I think people will be looking at that greatly. It's influenced very much so the way governments have reacted. Hey Stuart.
So Vinny,
no worries, mate. You're good.
Said hello in Turkish. I translated it.
Hello. Hello.
And Mary said hello back to him.
Mahaba.
So Ben says, when are you planning to continue your travel through Europe? How long will you wait before just going back to Australia if the lockdown goes on for too long?
Well, we probably won't be able to go back to Australia firstly, Ben. I don't think there's any repatriation flights going from Turkey at all, and we're not really. It's not part of our agenda. I always think with these van lifers that are traveling around and they're all sort of, people say, oh, go back. And you think, well, no, a lot of these people live in their vans. They go back where? And a little bit like Michelle and I, we don't really have a game plan to go back to Australia. We've planned to tour this year. We've got lots to do. And we're not changing that except for the fact that we can't do parts of it now. For instance, right now, next couple of weeks from now, we should be in France preparing for walking the Camino de Santiago, which is a 800 plus kilometer walk. So 800-900 kilometers walk. We were going to be doing that in beginning of May, and it was going to take us a month and a half, and we were so looking forward to it. Well, Ben, that's what we're planning to do. We're still planning to do that, but we just don't know when. And there's no way if the opportunity, if the borders open, the freedom of movement comes to being, we will be doing it. This isn't going to change that for us.
Yeah, we're lucky that we can just wait. We can just hang fire and wait and do it.
Yeah, I mean, we're not. Well, we're not. We're fortunate that we're not changing our plans. We're not lucky that we can wait, because actually waiting, it's a pain in the proverbial bummers, so to speak. I mean, it's not fantastic to be stuck here in Istanbul when you can't go out and enjoy Istanbul. You know, we're going to actually try and do a bit more filming on the streets to capture some of what's going on here. But we're very careful, and I think anybody can be very careful, to be honest. If you go outside, I've always been a little bit paranoid about people, Michelle. We've talked about this before. If someone coughs ahead of me, even if they're sort of like 10 feet, I think, oh, they coughed, that dust of cough will be in the air, whatever they've got. I don't want to walk through that, so I would probably cross the street or even stop. I've always been a little bit like that, and you know, I think everyone should be cautious of. I've been to supermarkets in the past, and I've seen that somebody's got a cold who's serving at the cashiers, and I just lift my stuff up and go to the next one, because I think firstly it's disrespectful to work, and I think the supermarket shouldn't allow that to happen, to work with a cold. I'm not talking about corona, I'm talking about years ago, 6 months ago, 5 years ago, 3 years ago, whatever. People who work in public places and are sick, it's commonplace in Australia and in most countries in the world. If you've got a bit of a cold, still to go into work because you don't want to lose the money for your shifts, and they'll take you in. So I'm very perceptive to that, and I think you can get out and just you can get out and do your exercise. And I have no idea where I'm going with this, Michelle.
Well, Ben says, I'm very much in the same mindset. I won't allow the panic to make me not want to travel. My parents have always travelled, so I've grown up that way. I can never stay in just one place for too long.
Now, we've been travelling for over 5 years now, and it's not because we're on holiday. Somebody said to me the other day, I said, I've got to be careful, I don't want to eat all these potato crisps, of which I've got a packet here.
That was our treat for the weekend.
It was a treat for the weekend, and actually we shouldn't really. But you know, they said, oh yeah, but you're on holiday. I said, no, we're not on holiday. If I treated every single day of the year like we were on holiday, I would be humongous, because we have this is not a holiday. This is just the lifestyle that we've chosen to have. We've chosen to try and keep a very low budget and travel at very minimum costs around the world for as long as we choose.
So Chris says, where's your next stop then, if you don't plan to go back to Australia right away?
Well, we don't know for sure, Chris. I mean, we were going to do a little bit more of this region, but we don't want to leave the Camino de Santiago too late in the year. We want to go to France and walk from France to the far side of Spain. Basically, that's what we want to do. On foot, backpacks on, get a little fit, lose some weight, enjoy the beautiful scenery that's along that route. And that's what our plan was. And we were going to film it, and we were actually going to try and daily vlog it, so we could show you all the beautiful parts of that region of the world, and try and actually do it as it happens. So you'd either get the video that day or you wouldn't, depending on connections. That's what we want to do. Yeah, we do. Sammy, let me show you. Is it messy? It's a bit messy. It's not too bad. Let me show you. This is the apartment. There's somebody there. She's the cleaner.
I'm always here.
We've got a couple of garishly red sofas.
We have no sides.
We've got a little kitchen area there. We've got some beautiful strawberries for later on. So we've got some fresh strawberries and some gorgeous. Well, you look at that honey, some honeycomb honey. Absolutely gorgeous. That'll go on the strawberries with some I want to say Greek yogurt. It's Turkish yogurt. Michelle's made this one today. We've got a veggie soup on the side there, a new one, a fresh one, a young Beaujolais Nouveau, and we've got a bedroom through there. Is it tidy? It's tidy. So we've got a nice bed there, Tammy, you can see, and we've got a nice bathroom, washing machine, and everything going on in there.
It says, do you have a desk or place to use So your laptop
That-
for editing the videos.
That tiny little, and we've not even turned this on. A TV, it's unplugged. We unplugged it because when I came in, it kept turning itself on. But TV, never used it, never likely to use it. And a little table which I use for my editing. And
Tammy says very cute. His and her couches. Yes, it's very very handy.
his and her couches. That's right, Tammy. And we never talk to each other. I'm on my side of
My
the
side. Get off my couch.
Sarah side of the lounge. You're on your side. Actually, we do snuggle up on that one.
I let him onto mine.
She lets me onto her,
in the evenings.
and we watch a little bit of Netflix if we can be bothered, or we watch a few friends on YouTube if we get the time.
Mm-hmm.
So the only thing I would say, I don't know if you've ever had these. If you ever want to buy couches,
Yeah.
these sort of couches here, sofas, couches. They don't have arms at the end, so they don't have those sort of risers.
They actually are beds. They come out to 2 double beds.
Do they come turn to beds, these ones?
Yeah, because it's an apartment for 4.
Okay, so they're sofa beds. I wouldn't be surprised if they're from IKEA. Everything tends to come from IKEA and Airbnb, so it's big like a vanilla world of everything the same. And not having anything to sort of put your arm on or lean up against, that actually can get you quite uncomfortable. And I find that these sofas really not the most comfortable sofas I've ever come across. I would highly not recommend sofas like that without any ends on them. Frankly, they're a pain in the backside. And if you're looking at buying them, make a little note. They look nice, but they're just never comfortable.
So Moon over Miami says, is train transportation open to you go to another part of Turkey right now?
No, Moon over Miami, mom as I call you. You can't leave Istanbul at the moment. You need a permit to go outside of Istanbul or go between regions. So no, nobody's allowed to leave Istanbul, and the airports are pretty much shut. But you know, it's a beautiful city. People are lovely around us. The weather's started. We're going into spring, so it's getting gorgeous. I mean, some days are bitterly cold. There's a sort of Baltic wind and cold rain coming, but as a rule, day by day, things are getting more and more beautiful. There's even the Bougainvillea. Is Bougainvillea?
No.
Wisteria.
Wisteria.
There's a wisteria. The wisteria is starting to come out. The purple wisteria looks like grapes hanging off the thing. So just behind me here, there's a wisteria. My mother grows a lovely wisteria in Australia, so a similar sort of thing, and that's just coming into bloom. So this street's going to look really pretty shortly.
So Stuart says you're both welcome to come to North Wales and my garden bar in between walking in the mountains.
Or something like that.
And Ben says Snowdonia.
The only
Chris says, are you getting bored in the apartment?
yeah, I'm starting to speak Welsh. I'm starting to try. That's roughly the name. No, I've got it wrong. Llantysillion, Llanfair, Pwllgwyngyll. Oh, I forget it. It's the name of the longest railway station in Wales. Yakida.
And Chris Hereford, the other Chris says, sounds exciting.
Chris, thanks. Who said coming to Wales?
Stuart.
Stuart. I love Wales. Beautiful. Beautiful part of the world. I even lived there for a little time, and not lived there. I spent some time down in Glamorgan, but I love the Welsh people again. I love all the sort of Gaelic folk. And
Ben says, Michelle, just lean over Steve, problem solved. That's with having no arms on you.
Yeah, I did that yesterday. I actually used Michelle as a sort of arm prop, and she promptly kicked me away. That wasn't a table was something Tammy said.
Tammy says I like the table spot surrounded by the windows.
It's beautiful, Tammy. Look at this, and look at my view. Look at my view. I love this view. Could never tires of this view. Hang on. I've got that out there, lovely little, it's almost like a Sicilian, it feels like Sicily to me. People have their little balconies. Outside this side, I get the old fellas and the old ladies, they drop their baskets out the window to get their deliveries coming up and out. This side, there's a lady up there, you can see there's always somebody looking out the window shouting down. Right, there's no one at the moment. we've got that beautiful view, and there are shops everywhere. And right below us, just down there, there was a bakery. Oh, hang on, quickly, something's happening. The ambulance is out, so let's come round. Come on, all the way around, everybody. Come with me. It's a brilliant place if you're nosy, which of course I'm not. Come on, Michelle.
I'm saying nothing.
I love just seeing the people going around their business, and just it's nice. Michelle and I lucked out. Michelle picked this place. She's done a very good job, didn't you?
I did, yes.
And it's not. It's a little over. It's a little. We'll talk about costs another time. It's a little more expensive maybe than some, but not expensive by some standards. But anyway.
So Chris Hereford said sour cream would be nice with those strawberries.
Nosy neighbour curtain twitcher. Did you? Where? Was it out there? Who said that?
That's him.
DJM.
Yeah.
DJME. Show me where. Where's a nosy neighbour and a?
Somebody wearing yellow.
Someone? No, they said there's someone out there that's. Oh, me. Cheeky monkey. How can you twitch these curtains? Can't twitch these curtains. They're roller blinds. But everybody, it's got that feel, you know. It's got that feel. The last time I felt this was in Sicily, when we had our beautiful little apartment in Sicily, and that was freezing cold as well. And we had this gorgeous. We were in Noto in Sicilia, and that was another place where we could go out and walk. That was another hilly town, wasn't it?
Yes.
Go out and get our daily vegetables and fruits, and it's great, guys. You know, the world that we've left behind for ridiculous Amazon.com and these, what the government's doing with banks and things. The world, yeah, is Beygulu.
Yes, Emre, is it? Hello, welcome to Turkey.
Oh, thank you.
Ben says in Germany, I remember our apartments had different coloured buildings just like that.
Yes, they're old. I mean, some of these places are literally held up by sort of chewing gum and the grass that's growing on them. Some of the buildings are collapsing. And what's really a little worrying, there's quite a few buildings here. If anyone that's been to Istanbul will know. And they worry the hell out of me because, and I'm not particularly concerned about health and safety, but there are buildings where on the footpaths, and you'll go past them and look up, and the building's crumbling. I mean, crumbling to pieces. There's one just next to us, and there are shards of glass broken. The windows are broken, and there's just tapers of glass coming out the windows, just hanging in by a bit of putty. And you think that's going to drop, and not only is it going to drop one day, it's inevitable. It is going to drop. You can see that maybe 200 or 300 pieces of glass have already dropped, and there's nothing cordoning off these streets. There's also a bridge near us, just up from not far from here, where they've actually used, it looks like a beautiful old London bridge made out of red brick. You often see these beautiful craftsman bridges, particularly around the canals in London, and you see so. And this bridge looks like a beautiful old railway bridge, but it's a road bridge made of brickwork. But on the side of the bridge, where all the people walk underneath and all the traffic drives, it's that what we call sticker brick. It's just like brick tiles that have been stuck on the side. Now that doesn't matter. I've got nothing wrong with that. But 70% of the brick tiles have fallen off. It's like underneath it, you can see it's all just concrete, and that troubles me a little bit. But apart from that, the architecture, the older architecture, is gorgeous. But I think sometimes some of these condemned buildings, they need to be cordoned off.
The DJ Me123 says hi, Steve.
Emre. Oh, sorry.
Gary here in Cambridge, loving the videos from Turkey.
Gary, did you say?
Yeah, so that's DJ Me123 says hi, Steve. Gary here in Cambridge.
Beautiful, lovely, another lovely part of the world. Very flat in Cambridge. Lovely cycling. Wonderful place for cycling. Tell me where you're all from, and I'll tell you if I've been there. Because Michelle and I have been to a lot of places. Been to Cambridge, love the city centre, love that area. It's very flat, so you get that sort of the historic heart of Cambridge. It's gorgeous, but sometimes when you're driving through Cambridgeshire, there's not so much mountainous scenery as I like to see, and that goes all the way out to Norfolk, really.
I think Enes and Emre are having a conversation in Turkish.
Hey up.
I'm not that fast at my translating.
Uh,
So Chris Garden says, do you still have your kitchen equipment from the cooking videos back in Australia?
Say that again?
Do you still have your kitchen equipment from the cooking videos back in Australia?
Yes, I do have most of my kitchen equipment, but it's been boxed up for so long. I'm sorry. Now don't worry about the Turkish conversation. You're fine. Carry on.
So Moon over Miami says your apartment is great, has all you need.
Has everything we need apart from a good oven.
A good oven. And a little coffee table.
Very limited, and a coffee. Another table would be nice.
Size or bigger table. Yo-Yo says, is the netting going over the street there to hold the vines? Yes.
That is, yes. There's a good clear picture then, isn't it? If you can see that. I don't think that is a what did I say a moment ago?
Wisteria.
I don't think that's a wisteria, because it's the wisteria down the road is already coming out. It could be a grapevine, but I can imagine with it, we'll probably be here for it coming out, and we may well be here for it losing its leaves and withering away in the winter. Who's to say?
So Enes says, oh my God, you're here in Istanbul. Yes, we are.
We are, Enes. Are you in Istanbul? Beautiful city, man. Absolutely beautiful city. Lovely people.
And he says, put the couches in the corners and use some cushions. I think it would work. Not big enough, is it?
We've only got these little sort of poncy cushions, and they just about work. I'm not grumbling. They're fine. They're fine. Ben, Hythe in Kent.
You have been to Hythe, Kent, Steve. I moved away from there very close to when you visited in 2016.
Do you remember? We actually got the ferry over. We went to Hythe in Kent as a sort of special visit. I think I had a sausage and batter and chips.
Yes, with fish and chips.
And we had fish and chips, I think, Michelle. We had a fish and chips, and I got a sausage and batter. Hythe in Kent, lovely little part. And I've also been to Hythe in Hampshire as well, Ben, just as well.
From Hythe in Kent.
That was when we were heading, I can't remember, Ben, but I remember Hythe in Kent, lovely little town.
Okay, so you asked everyone where they were from. So Edward Owens is in Maryland, eastern US. We know Maryland.
We do know Maryland. That's where James lives.
Yeah.
And we've been to Maryland. We've been to Philadelphia, driven down to Maryland.
So Watergirl 49 says love and hugs to both of you.
Watergirl.
Yes.
Long time since I've heard from you, Watergirl.
Laurie Lumac says good morning from Saskatchewan, Canada.
Now, talking of Canada, I know any of you that are in Canada, Saskatchewan, I can say Saskatchewan without starting to stutter. I have never been to Canada, and it's one of our regrets. I think we really want to go.
Yes.
Yeah, that's somewhere that's high on our list of places we'd love to go and visit Canada. So if any of you want to trump me and say, no places I haven't been, tell me places in Canada. Haven't been there yet. And actually, to be honest, there's loads of places. Did I just see Colombia or something?
So Petri says, I'm living in South Carolina, US, Columbia, South Carolina.
Oh, I love South Carolina. Is Myrtle Beach in South Carolina?
Possibly. Possibly we like Myrtle Beach,
Who said that? Who said that?
Petri.
Petri. Myrtle South Carolina? I think it is. I think it's could be North Carolina.
And then Ben says, I recognise the street you were on in Hythe, Steve, Small World.
Who said that?
Ben.
You did, yeah. That was a little while ago, Ben. But a lovely little town, Hythe. That was the sort of, was it cobbled? I think part of it was cobbled and part of it was not. There's some beautiful little towns in England when you go around, and up in the north.
So
it is.
Yes, it is. And Muna from Miami says yes, it is.
Yeah, we spent some time with the kids I love the North Carolina, South Carolina, Alabama. We drove all round the sort of central and southern and northern states at one time with our kids, and we spent a little time on Myrtle Beach. We actually had a little apartment there. And it was gorgeous. It would have been coming into the fall, so autumn, for those of you that don't know what the fall is. That's an American term, by the way, for you Americans that think everybody should know. I only really heard that the first time in probably a few Christmas carols and when I got over to the US. So yeah, it was cooler weather, so it was low season. They got putting greens and crazy golf and all sorts of stuff going on that coastline. But we had a really low season. The beaches were sort of like a little wintry. It was really gorgeous, lovely part of the world.
So Emre says, do you love Turkey?
Yes, I do love Turkey. I love what I've seen of Turkey, and all I've seen at the moment is Istanbul. So probably a little bit early to say what the rest of Turkey is like, but if the rest of Turkey is as charming and as friendly as Istanbul, then we will love it for sure.
And then Enes says, I still remember that your recipe to cook sushi rice. It's totally made me famous as a sushi maker fella.
Well done. Sushi rice, yeah.
Chris Garton says, Ireland, you haven't been here as far as I remember.
No, and I think Tony O'Malley and a few people, Ireland is like Canada, high on our list of places to go. I don't know when we'll do it. I don't know when we'll be able to, but I'm going to do it. We're going to go to Ireland. I couldn't imagine getting through my life without visiting a place like Ireland or Canada, or I really want to go to the Scandinavian countries as well. There's so many places that we still need to visit. I was hoping some of you might throw up some towns like, oh yeah, I've been there. But actually, when you think about the number of towns and cities we've been to, the chances are pretty slim.
Well, Petri said you probably like Pawleys Island in South Carolina as well.
Yeah, I have no doubt. I haven't been to Pawleys Island as far as I know. It sounds familiar for some reason, though. I don't know why it sounds familiar. Has that been in a TV show or something, or was that just is it historically famous? But it sounds familiar. Come on, Michelle, get those questions rolling.
I think I've done them all. I don't think I've missed any. If I've missed it, you have to write it again.
Yes, if you miss them.
Petri says, I think it has.
Possibly, yes. One of these days, when I come to an area near you, I would love to meet you and say hello, particularly some of you that have been with me and those that have not been so long. But
Ben says you don't drink alcohol much, right, Steve?
I don't, Ben, to be honest. I do love it. I mean, yeah, cheers, me dear.
Cheers.
Cheers, me dear.
Bottle.
I really love good. This is actually nicer than the last one I had, which was a bit of a wheat beer. This one's got a slightly Newcastle brown, little malty sort of edge to it, and a little sweet. I think it's probably again about a 5 point something % by alcohol, I would say. I got a photograph yesterday of a guy I shouldn't have done really. Chin chin, cheers, salute, salute, prost. I walked down the street here and there was a guy, and it was only about sort of 2 or 3 in the afternoon, and he was hammered, just laying in the doorway, and he looked like he'd been to a work. He had a lovely white shirt on and his coat on, and he was laying sort of slumped in the doorway, and there were 2 cans of special brew next to it. It wasn't special brew, but it was a local brew, and it had 7.5%. And yeah, it was. He was out for the count, and I don't know what. It was yesterday afternoon, so I don't know what happened to him at the end of the day. Poor soul. Paris, I have been to a few times. Never really spent a lot of time. We did live in France, so we've done a lot of. We've done quite some years in France, and Paris is not my favorite city. I've got there are a lot of cities in France that I prefer to Paris by a long stroke. All right, my Parisian, I'll get your goat up. I think London is a far more interesting and exciting city than Paris. And I think the beauty of France and what people tend to miss is the provincial towns. France has got some of the most gorgeous provincial towns. If you're going around Angers, La Rochelle, Nantes, there are so many little towns. They're great. Paris is interesting, but it has a limited appeal to me. And I think actually, if you want to really get the feel for France, get out of Paris and go somewhere else. And actually, if you want to go, I think most of the Brits that are watching this would agree. If you want to get a real feel for England, Ireland, Scotland, or Wales, get out of the capitals. Get out of Edinburgh, get out of Dublin, get out of Cardiff, get out of London, and go to the smaller towns.
Exactly what
Is that what you were saying, Ben?
Yeah.
Sorry, mate. I didn't read what you said because I'm barely able to read. It comes up for a few seconds. Get out and visit places outside, because they not only are they more interesting, like Hythe in Kent. York's a lovely place. Go up into the north, into Yorkshire and place. I think Liverpool. I've not been to Liverpool, not that I remember. But get and visit the small towns if you get time. If you really want to appreciate travel, book yourself a 3-week, 4-week, as long as you possibly can, in a little village somewhere in anywhere, and yeah, you'll get it. I mean, saying that, we're in Istanbul in Turkey, right? Heart of Turkey here, not far from Taksim, and I'm getting a good feel for this city. I love it. So.
Edward Owen says, not yet noon, but the beer looks so good.
It's a nice beer. I couldn't drink 2 of these. I would be under the table, completely legless, because I'm a complete and utter wuss. I could. I mean, in my youth, I could drink a lot more, but I don't drink often, so it goes to my head pretty quick. But it just seemed like an appropriate thing to do.
So Petri said maybe he was celebrating. That's the guy.
I think he'd been celebrating something. Just pass me your camera then.
And Ben says the trouble is getting from an airport to a rural area can be challenging.
Yeah. Well, it can be, but it can be also so rewarding. So if you can get out and if you can get out and enjoy. Can I show this picture? I probably can. Look. You see what I mean? He's sat in the doorway, and if I zoom in, you can, hang on, let me just, next to him, he's got Extra. He's got these beer cans next to him called Extra, 7.5%, and he's just completely sozzled. I mean, he couldn't hear anything, couldn't hear anybody walk past him. And he's well dressed, so he's obviously been to well, I don't know what would cause you to be that hammered. I would have put him around about his early 30s or something. He wasn't a particularly elderly character.
So Chris Hereford said, is Russia on the cards of your places to visit? Yeah,
Russia is on the cards, but Russia is always a tricky one with visas. We were hoping to do Russia this year, actually, and that's all gone by the by. I don't see how we can do it this year. Russia was planned for this year. One of the places we had planned, Mongolia and Russia, but it's not going to happen. It'll have to happen in another trip. We've got to get better at planning these things. It's hard for you to do when you're traveling constantly. I think Michelle and I need to get settled somewhere for a little while, maybe sort of 3, 4, 5, 6 months, and start planning these things a bit more carefully.
Which we could do here if we knew when it was going to end.
Yeah. And clearly...
and he says they've destroyed everyone's plans.
They've destroyed everyone's plans, so we can't grumble.
Ben says, oh, but planning is boring, Steve. We're not good at planning.
We're not good at planning. People are often surprised just how we travel. We plan, but we plan sort of like just before we get there. So and it works for us, we don't.
It's fun to randomly pick where to go sometimes. That's how I roll. That's what Ben says.
Well, that's good. And there are other people that prefer to have an itinerary set out, and that works really well for a lot of people. I see people doing that, and they have a great time. Sometimes I wish that I was that person, but I'm not. So,
So Tammy says, I watch a YouTube channel called Bored and Bankrupt. He travels a lot to the old Soviet republics and is very interesting.
Yes, he started traveling with Harold Balder originally. That guy had an amazing sort of like rise. He went with a very popular YouTuber around traveling. He had about sort of, I think, 30 subscribers. Within sort of 6 months, got 1 million subscribers because he just got the right stuff going at the right time. And he's young. He's young enough that he's not super young, not a youngster, but he's done very well. And I used to watch a little bit of his stuff, Tammy, but I found it got a bit. I think I don't know. I find it a little hard to watch now. Maybe a bit too sensationalized or what have you. But the early stuff where it was really just raw and things, I quite enjoyed a lot more actually. But lovely guy, lovely character.
Annie says McDonald's is open here. Where are you, Annie? And Ben S says all cafes and restaurants are closed in the UK. Literally the only thing these small businesses can do is take out government-backed loans, which the businesses will have to repay themselves.
I'm not addressing that's miserable. I don't want to talk about that.
Petri says,
But it's true.
I have a loose outline of what I like to do and go from there. That sounds a bit like us. We have
we have a. It depends how loose your outline is, Petri. Can I eat chips?
Down to earth. Oh, down to earth. Is quoting fear is for others. Bruce Lee apparently said that.
Can you hear Michelle, by the way?
Got a shout. Yo-Yo agrees with you that yes, the early stuff was better. That's with Bored and Bankrupt.
Yeah, it was kind of fun and raw, and it's always the same as people, and you try not to do it. And I think sometimes the older you are, the more easy it is not to get carried away with things. But sometimes you come up with a formula and you try to repeat that formula, and it can become a little tired. Well, you can do what we do, which is every time people get comfortable with the formula, you change it up and just alienate everybody.
Annie said she's in Norway.
Oh, Norway. I've never been to Norway. My father's been there quite a few times, and he paints such a beautiful picture of Norway. Painted, my father's passed away. That I always wanted to go there, and I've actually got a beautiful knife from Norway. Once my father brought back a beautiful knife. I used to collect knives when I was younger. Used to love. Yes. Can I get the power over here? I think my phone's about to die.
Oh, your power phone.
See, she's useful for something. She's gone off.
I heard that.
Oh, too loud. So Norway. I was saying earlier all the Scandinavian countries, but I'm a bit of a wuss, or Michelle's a bit of a wuss. It's not me really. I'm hard as nails, Arkwright's nails. I'm as hard as Arkwright's nails. But I would like to go to Norway, Sweden, Denmark, Finland, Iceland, Greenland, the Faroe Islands. But I want to go there. I'm waiting for global warming to get to the level where I can still wear an Hawaiian shirt.
See, and I'm the wuss.
I'm a wuss. Yeah, I'm told to do those places in the summer months.
So,
you know what though, because we always do things the wrong way around. We'll probably go in the harshest of winters.
we probably will. We always do. So Tammy says our restaurants are open for takeout and delivery only.
Our restaurants here, are they?
No, her restaurants.
Oh yeah, same here.
We're talking about that.
Most of them are closed, to be honest. I would say the dustbin cart, the garbage cart, whatever you want to call it, has just gone by again. They collect rubbish. I mean, I said on the walk around the other day that they are a little bit old school in so much they still chuck their rubbish on the street when they're walking along. I see a lot of that here in Turkey, but the collection services are great. The guys work really hard to keep Istanbul as clean as they possibly can. What was I saying before that?
Restaurants and takeaways are open here.
The restaurants that have...
Sorry, there's a basket going up.
Oh.
Basket delivery.
Basket delivery. Do you see it?
You missed it.
There it goes. He's going up. Look, can you see? Can you see?
That's
My damn phone's stuck. I'm on a suction cup, and it's stuck to my computer. I can't lift it. Can you see the fella there? There he goes. He's bringing in his bread rolls. He's 3 times today. He has brought that out. Let's just zoom in. So he just chucks that basket down on a string.
I tell you, he's entertaining himself.
Now I can't lift my phone, and I've zoomed in. Hang on. Otherwise, all you're going to get is my chin. Let's try and get back. Let's try and get back on track here. I went to pick the phone up to show you, but it's on one of these sort of suction cups. I've not got it sucked onto the tabletop, but it did, and I sort of went, it wouldn't come up.
The Moon Over Miami says, take a look at some Greek islands to settle at after they open. Porus Island or Aegina Island, both near Athens, laid back, good food, nice people to settle down at.
Settle down? What do you mean by
Well,
settle
you said
down?
maybe we need to stop for 5 or 6 months.
Oh yeah, I don't think it's likely to be somewhere like Greece, but Greece is actually on the plans for this year. It's still actually it's still booked in, but it could end up not happening. We're not 100% sure, but Greece is definitely on the plans. We were kind of looking forward. I've got some family in Greece, and I'm hoping we can catch up with them, and then it was a perfect time to go over and see Greece and share with you. And now I'm not doing, you see, when I went to Sicily, I was still trying to do the Steve's Kitchen filming, cooking, and it became hard for Michelle and I because we were always having to find apartments with perfect kitchens, or not perfect, but a kitchen that we could use. And our time was spent researching recipes and doing all the stuff we'd normally done back home. And we didn't get to share with you as much of Greece as I would have liked to. So when we go to, of Sicily, as I want to, when we go to places like Greece this time, you will get to see it. That's what I'm trying to say.
Sorry, there was a couple of comments. So Annie says Sweden and Denmark is great too. And Ben Ed says the Faroe Islands cold. Did you talk about the Faroe Islands?
Yeah, I did.
I missed that.
Faroe Islands, somebody in the Faroe Islands said to me, you must come and visit. And I was researching. I thought, oh, it looks gorgeous. I mean, it looks gorgeous, but you can really only go to the Faroe Islands in the peak of the summer period, because otherwise it is so cold.
So Anne Skelchi said, hi Steve and Michelle, I would like to go to Norway too and visit the fjords.
And me too. And we'll get there, as you will, I'm sure.
So Nadine says, hi Steve and Michelle, how are you?
Nadine, I'm good. How are you? Very good.
Chris Hereford says, are you fond of aero sports?
Is that the chocolate bar with the bubbles in it?
That's what I was thinking.
Why would you have that with sports? Or like an energy bar? Yeah, no, I don't like a lot of mint things, but I do like the aero with the mint, the green mint inside. That's always been a favourite. So aero sports, I haven't tried that flavour. Is it like a sort of what is it, a Red Bull version of aero?
So Edward Owen says drive through and delivery only here. And Annie says maybe he's not allowed to go out. I think that's referring to the guy with the
No, the baskets, the guys with the all down this street, all the apartments drop baskets down. I've shared videos of this on some of my recent videos I've uploaded, and it's nothing to do with the coronavirus, nothing to do with the sickness. This is just they didn't suddenly all have a length of rope that reached the ground and comes back up. They all have it because they're quite hard going up and down these staircases. So every street has a little corner shop. This one has one, two, three shops in about 200 yards. And those guys are salt of the earth. If they shout out the window, they put their head out the window and they sort of, oi, 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 Emery. Call the guy, and they'll drop the basket down, and the bread or milk or butter will go up. It's just great. It's nothing to do with the lockdown. Nothing even remotely to do with it at all. It's just the culture of Istanbul.
So Petri said, question, why were you making fun of Michelle for wanting to do the basket delivery last time? Lol, looks pretty cool. Thank you, Petri.
I wasn't taking the mickey out of her, Petri. I wasn't just taking us seriously, because we haven't got a basket and we haven't got a length of rope.
And it's just as easy to run down the stairs. So Zelda A said, yes, Annie, today and tomorrow we are all not allowed to go out. So Zelda A, you must be in Turkey.
Yes, we're not allowed to go out, and we're not going out.
No.
Though there is a bit of an anomaly. What's the word I'm looking for? Anyway, there is a bit of a caveat in that. The bakeries are all open, and you're allowed to go to the bakers to get bread. So we do see a lot of people walking around with a loaf of bread under their arms, or not. No, they're not French. They don't put them in a plastic bag. So I do think if you were to go out and you wanted to do a good walk. I mean, Michelle and I could probably go for a good hefty walk as long as we had a baguette under each arm. And then whenever you get met by the police, you're just actually come out to get a loaf of bread. But that's not happening. People are actually just coming out to get their bread. And we can go out, we're allowed to go out and get bread. But when I go out of my front door, the bakery's about 3 feet away from me. So it doesn't really get much, it's not much of a walk.
Annie says, I'm outside on my property watching this now. We have sun for a change.
Annie is? Oh, nice. Lucky you. And also, I'm trying to cut down on bread. Michelle and I have decided, I don't know if any of you are like us, when we go to countries where the bread is great, we love our bread. And I'll be making bread tomorrow live on the channel. So if you want to come, so it's going to be a flatbread. It's going to be very simple, but delicious. And I'm talking through the methodology and how it works. So that'll be for tomorrow. But when we go to countries with great bread, we put on weight, and we are trying to cut off when we first arrived in Turkey, you lovely Turkish viewers that are watching, your bread is so good, and we're sort of having simit and different types of bread every day, and I'm putting on weight, so I've got to knock the bread on the head. And as soon as we cut out bread, the weight falls off. So if any of you have got problems and you really want to consider losing weight, and you're not sort of 22, where just knocking on a door will knock off a couple of stones, then carbohydrates is a good thing to slow down on, particularly processed breads and things.
So Jay-Z gives you a high five.
Jay-Z.
Ben says, by the length of rope, one step away from being a local.
That's a good idea, Ben. I'm thinking where would I buy rope? All the shops are closed.
So you've got a washing up bowl, right?
She's got the bowls. That's what Michelle brought out yesterday, trying to convince me it was a basket. I don't know how that's going to work. Yeah, if you could go back to Australia and say, what did you bring back? I could just take rope back for people. Oh, what did you get? Oh, I got you some rope. What's the rope for? Well, it's traditional, it's Turkish, that rope's Turkish. So that's what we could do. We could just buy a big roll of rope, cut it off. And most people in Australia are in bungalows, single story units. So what English people would call a bungalow. So we've only got to give them a little short bit of rope.
Sorted, easy.
Sorted. Take everybody, you know what you're getting for Christmas. Anybody that's watching, yeah, you're getting a bit of rope, and it's all the way from Turkey, so you'll be sorted. Thank you, Ben. Was that Ben gave me that idea?
Yes.
Ben, next time you come back from Hawaii or somewhere like that, or you've been to the Maldives, sat on the beach doing nothing, just before you get out of the airport, pop into B&Q, grab yourself a big roll of rope, tell them you went to Turkey, and give them 3 foot of rope.
Sorted.
You're done. To Turkish delight, tell them.
So Ben says, baguette under each arm, Steve Kitchen style.
Absolutely.
Annie's sat outside with 2 dogs and 3 cats.
Beautiful. If I was outside now, I'd be with 1 dog and 3,000 cats. Because there's a dog on our street, and he's a lovely little character, and he comes and he started to get used to me, so he's fairly friendly now. The only thing I'd say here, people of Turkey, if you're watching or you watch this later on, everybody comes to our bakers and they buy 1 or 2 or 3 baguettes, 2 baguettes. Well, not a baguette, they're more like a sort of like a Subway sandwich style bread, and they always put them in a plastic bag and they always carry them away. Stop it. Just do what the Italians do, what the French do. Just take the bread in your hand and carry it home, because there's too much plastic. And it's got to be Turkey. You can learn. Stop putting things in plastic bags.
So Moon over Miami says, I don't eat much bread, but love to make it for the baking aroma. Lol, with some butter once in a while, it's super. That's what we like.
Yes, and tomorrow we will be having super and bread. So we actually got that lovely veggie soup. Tomorrow it'll be a little bit sort of the vegetables will have released all the goodness and made a lovely stock out of it. And I'm going to make with you guys some delicious bread. I might try and do more than one version, but I think it'll take too long. So I'm going to make one of my favorite breads, to be honest. Call it what you want. Somebody's driving around. That's the first car I've seen down here today.
So Ben said, what time tomorrow is the live stream?
Probably a similar time to today, Ben. I'll try and give you some notification. So we've got, what time is it now? So yeah, we'll go at a similar time to today because the light's nice and soft and it should be good.
You just got to have to do it, but it'll be fine.
Tidy up a little bit, make some space. We've only got a little tiny bit of countertop, so we'll have to make some space.
So
And we'll just have a natter.
So Ben said, don't receive notifications on YouTube as always.
Well, that's YouTube
That's
for you.
YouTube. Chris Garton says sourdough is fine in that case. I'm eating homemade sourdough every day with no problems. Of course, you can't make it there.
I can't. No, I've still got my Sicilian sourdough starter popped away around at my mother's house. She's looking after it for me. So one day I'll get that starter back and we'll start making some beautiful Sicilian sourdough. Got to be. Thumbs up. Anyone who's in who hasn't thumbed up, don't forget to hit that thumbs up and let me know what you're doing and how you're coping. And just is this what do we want to call this? This epidemic, this natural disaster, whatever, unnatural disaster. How is it affecting you? Is anybody not too concerned about it and just doing hunky-dory and quite happy? Is anyone else stuck anywhere? Are we the only people that are not in our home country?
So New Light says, have you been to Portugal? Food is wonderful.
Many times to Portugal, love it. Pastel de nata. I love all the Portuguese food. I particularly love the Portuguese custard tarts. I've got a sweet tooth, and I love. When I lived in Hong Kong, we used to travel into China a lot, and we're in China now. Love the Chinese. So don't. Everyone seems to be hating on them. I love China. I think the people there are so nice. That it's such a shame that their government are a bunch of much like our governments, really. Anyway, so the Chinese particularly love, and the Hong Kongers anyway, particularly love Portuguese egg custard tarts. So, or the Chinese call them dan tart, and I think the Portuguese call them pasta de nata. Anyway, love Portuguese food. Been there before. Got absolutely no. It wasn't in Spain where we got stung for expensive fish. Shall I tell that story? Do you remember in Oreo? Fish in Oreo? We travel on a budget, we're not big spenders. We always try to be a bit cautious of what we spend. And we were traveling with our children, doing a similar sort of thing to what we're doing now, touring around, just bouncing around the world, exploring places, looking for somewhere to settle for a while. And we were in northern Spain in a little town called Oreo. Beautiful little town, fantastic people. And the local specialty was a fish, and it was a beautiful, like a snapper stroke flounder stroke. I can't remember the exact fish, but it was a local fish. And I've never told this story before, have I?
Everyone was eating it.
Everybody was eating it. It was very popular with all the tourists that were there. They were sort of like enjoying it. There's a guy walking up the street again. Why is this? This happened yesterday. Sorry, I'm going to turn that round so you can see. Why is there a guy walking up the street with a crocus or a orchid?
Probably delivering it, visiting somebody.
I saw that. I think on yesterday's video you might see there was a guy just walking along with there was somebody on the walk around Istanbul carrying an orchid.
There's no baguette under his arm.
Do you remember there was a no he's breaking all the rules.
He's got it.
There was a Monty Python sketch some time ago about lupins. Robin Hood, ride for the land. Soon every lupin in the land will be in his mighty hand. Anyway, so this guy is just wandering around stealing all of the. Sorry, I got a bit of a. Stealing all of the orchids. So we were in this town. Sorry, I bounce off and I'll come back to it. Don't worry, I will get there. And I said to Michelle, "Oh, we should go and have this fish. It looks lovely." So we rarely do this. We rarely go into a restaurant and not ask the price. So we went in and we had 3 children with us, you know, young teenage kids who love to eat as they do. And I ordered. I said we'll have one of those fish, and it was a fish they did in a crustacean of salt. So they cooked it in salt on open coal fires. And we had the fish. So they brought it to our table in great ceremony, put it down. It wasn't that big a fish, you know. It wouldn't do a big family.
We did have a lot of other things.
We did have a lot of other things. A little bit of bread. They served it with bread and olive oil. It was absolutely delicious. And I suddenly saw the people next to us get the bill, and they'd had the same as us. This is back in 2001, if I remember rightly, so some time ago when money was still worth something. And the couple next to us had just had a fish, and he bought the bill. And I remember looking, it was like something like 50 euros for this fish, or the equivalent now of 50 euros, or maybe 50 pounds for this one fish. And I said Michelle and I looked at each other and thought, oh. Because we were planning afterwards having like a nice dessert and some this, that, and the other, and I remember we sort of hurriedly tried to enjoy this. It was probably about the amount. Take a few fish fingers, bird's eye fish fingers. Take the crumb off, and there was like a few bits. That's what it started to taste like anyway. So we ate this measly little fish between the family, and I said, come on, let's go out and get some. They had a lovely fish and chip shop on the waterfront. Wasn't really like a fish and chip shop, but it sold lovely French fries and things. So we said, come on, let's get out. You're not having a dessert, kids. Get out quick. Because if we were going to order two of these fish, we were going to order two fish, and then we were going to have the dessert. But it was okay. That doesn't sound like a lot to many of you now. 50 euros doesn't sound a lot, but back in 2001, some of you will remember that would have been like about 200 or 300 euros equivalent of today. And it pretty much wiped out our budget for the week. So we were just on sort of, we were on gruel and porridge for the next month. I exaggerate, of course.
Well, you asked everybody what they were doing, so I know there's a few people have answered.
Please, yes.
So Chris Hereford said, I baked 2 loaves of bread every day. I made some lemon curd this morning, so I had my fair share of bread today.
Lemon curd, I love lemon curd.
And Yo-Yo Max says, I work in the emergency services, so I have to keep going to work.
Oh, I didn't know that, Tammy. I didn't realise. So you're still 3 years before that finishes. So good on you. Well done you.
And Ben S said, not too concerned myself, just being reasonably cautious as always, still going for daily walks.
That's important. Just keep the distance. It is important. We don't want anyone to get a sickness that could cause them any harm. So we really should be keeping a social distance from people and being cautious.
And Moon over Miami said, I'm not concerned at all about this. I have a very strong immune system. I'll tell you what though, you left China just in time.
A lot of people, and I said I get some horrible comments on the China videos at the moment as if I'm there. Somebody said, oh, what are you doing there? You're going to get sick. And I thought, well, it was back in October. I mean, crying out loud, this was and also the region that we were in was is barely being affected. And can I just say something to everybody who watches way too much mainstream media? There's a massive amount of hate on wet markets, an immense amount of hate on wet markets. A wet market is just a market in Asia. It's just a market that sells wet goods. A dry market sells shoes, electronics, dry goods, non-perishable. A wet market means nothing more. I mean, a wet market could be selling, it can be beautiful, hygienic and clean in China, or I've got many videos up on wet markets in Thailand, Cambodia, China, Malaysia, all sorts of wet markets that we've been to. They are just wet good markets, and almost none of them sell the sort of disgusting stuff that you read about or hear about on the news. These markets that are selling these disgusting products are very, very few in China. They're not commonplace. Please do understand this. We can't really lose control of the fact, because the one that I went to in Dali, in the Yunnan province, these places are, they're old school, right? They're old school. They cut meat out in the open, just like our markets used to in Europe barely 50 years ago. They smoke cigarettes while they're serving, which they do here in Turkey even to today. It wasn't that many years ago that doctors in our you've got pictures of doctors smoking cigarettes, serving, whilst dealing with patients. Things are changing. They're changing quickly. But the name wet market has become almost like blasphemous at the moment, and it is wrong and completely irresponsible of the media to talk about it. These markets that are selling these disgusting bats, food and things are a minority. They really are a minority. They are disgusting, and they absolutely should be shut down. But if you took, it's a big country, China, many hundreds of millions of markets, and you shut down all of those markets that we're talking about in the media, you're talking about less than 1%, maybe even 0.5% of markets that sell that sort of stuff. So we do have to be careful. Wet market is not the blasphemous, horrible thing that people, that the media are portraying. I've been filming wet markets for so long now. I love them. I think they're fascinating. I unplugged my power, didn't I, when I... And it is the way in which most people in Cambodia, most people in Vietnam and Malaysia and Singapore and Mexico and Chile and almost anywhere, Argentina, it's where people go and buy their food every day. Wet markets means wet goods. It's become almost like a cuss, wet market. They're not. Yes, they are open. We used to have them. We still have. Actually, I think we still have them in Australia, where people are handling. The butchers will do, at county fairs and things. Cut meat up and do things. So anyway, wet markets. You'll never change my mind. I think they're wonderful, wonderful hearts of the community, and I am fully in respect to them. The ones that are pushing the rare animal species and things, I've seen those firsthand when I lived for many years in Hong Kong. They're disgusting. The people that use them are despicable, and it is a real problem. But trust me, it's like I said earlier to you about the camera. The camera, if it saw 10,000 people walking around the town, never getting closer than 2 meters from each other, and there was one person sat in a group on a picnic blanket, the news company would always focus their camera lens on there and say what a dreadful world we're living in. They never like to turn around and tell the truth about what there is. So the current narrative is that all Chinese wet markets are deplorable, and it's an absolute despicable lie, and it's beyond, because anyway, I don't know what to say about it really. I'm always in awe of the way these places still have these beautiful open markets with fresh produce that comes in daily. There's never any smells. This stuff comes in daily, and it's the way our forefathers shot for centuries, and it's not the problem. The problem is these unscrupulous places and this ridiculous history that China has with eating all this disgusting stuff. But it's not commonplace, and it is changing quite quickly. Beer's getting to me.
Well, it's getting back to what everyone's doing. Tammy's also said, I order my groceries online, do curbside pickup, I wear a mask if I have to go somewhere where I won't be able to stand a good distance from other people. I love being home, so I don't find that part hard. No,
and that's sensible, and that's what everyone should be doing, Tammy. Well done. I mean, that's what everyone should be doing, and it could be done with a lot less hysteria than what it's being done. But anyway,
Chris Hereford says, I'm hunky-dory and absolutely happy. Enjoying cooking a lot. It's one of my hobbies.
Yeah. And beautiful. And Michelle and I cook every day. We're always doing fresh food here. We do quite well. It's a little bit plain, some of it, but it's good, wholesome food. I actually found a butcher's. Oh, go on, you some more.
Yeah,
let Michelle carry on.
Gunther's Squad says, hello, Steve. Gunther's Squad.
G'day, mate. G'day, fella.
Moon over Miami, love fish, best food.
Fish.
Chris Garton says, I'm making bread and doing some planting in my garden.
Good.
And Chris Hereford said he must have pinched the flowers from some old lady's garden.
Why? Yeah, I think soon every Lupin in is. You can look up the Monty Python Lupin sketch, and you'll know what I mean.
Gunther Squad said, garden, fruit trees, and plenty of love to go around if people would allow the big picture, love thy neighbour.
Yes, I'm not sure quite what that comment means, but if it means anything like our life when we had our little farm in our little sort of small holding in France, a lot of the fruit trees produced an immense amount of fruit, more than you could possibly eat. And for instance, we had 2 or 3 cherry trees, and they would produce more cherries than you could possibly eat. So we were always trying to have to give them away to people in bucket loads, or we eventually started slicing the cherries. I bought an automatic cherry pipper, not one of the little ones which we used to have as kids to take one at, but an automatic one that took pips, and we would lay them out on a big. If any of you got big cherry trees, lay them out on a big tarpaulin in the sun, and they dry, and they're just like raisins, just like cranberries. They dry beautifully, and you can store them throughout the year. They make really great eating, and they go into cakes and they go into desserts. So if you get a bumper crop, but yes, I think you're talking about sharing out. There is a lot of stuff. Some people, quite often, if you have a good garden, you're growing stuff, and you start getting pumpkins, you get an abundance. Sorry, Michelle.
Stuart says, do you eat according to the country you're in, or stick to your favourites?
No, always eat according to the countries that we're in. I mean, occasionally we'll drop back into some familiar foods, but one of the main reasons we travel is to experience people, culture, and food. So it's one of the reasons that inspires me to travel. I love food, and whoops, we're disconnected. I love food from different parts of the world, and one of the most exciting things of being in any country, whether it's India as we were before here, or whether we're in Istanbul, is to discover the food. And I'm very easy on food. Both Michelle and I will eat anything. We'll try anything. I won't eat that disgusting stuff that they sell. I won't eat some of that horrible food that's sold in not just in China, by the way, but in many parts of the world that I think is unethical.
So you can talk about the butcher now.
Butcher, yeah, we found somebody mentioned in the comments. They gave me an address, and I don't know if they'll be in here today. They mentioned there was a butcher's down by the Esso garage, and I went down there a couple of days ago. We got some sausages, and we got some beautiful prosciutto ham. I mentioned in the last stream we haven't had meat in a long time, so I just went and binged and bought some beautiful prosciutto, some sausages, some cheese as well, some lovely cheese. So thank you for that tip. It's a great little butcher's. Thank you very much. So brilliant. Our trip to India was based, Stuart, also our trip to India was, no, it's never, and I think you'll agree with me, it's never just about the food, because people make every country, it's about people. That's why we rarely ever go and see things like, the Taj Mahal and places like that. I'd rather meet half a dozen people and share food with people than I would go and see particular sites. I'm a people person. Love people.
Nadine says, have you tried Tre Leche dessert? My favourite.
Tre Leche, that's the caramel.
Yeah, the 3 milks, isn't it?
Yes. A long time ago, it seems. Now you're making me salivate. Beautiful. But yes, we've made it as well. We've made most of these sort of popular desserts. We were going to make this coffee that's very popular at the moment. What's it called?
Dalgona coffee or something.
Dalgona coffee. A lot of people had said, and we thought, we might make a Dalgona coffee. Michelle said, let's make the Dalgona coffee. But then when we looked at the recipe, it had 2 tablespoons of sugar in each coffee, and I said, no, I can't do that. I can't condone that sort of stuff. I'm not a big fan of I like coffee, and I don't even mind a little bit of sugar, but 2 tablespoons is too much, so we're not doing that.
So Stuart said your videos with the Indian families was super.
Yes, superb. I'm not sure which, because we did 2 or 3, at least 2 Indian families, but the Indian videos were heaps of fun. Any other questions quickly before I think we're probably going to end this stream because it's getting a little longer than I anticipated.
Ben says, will we see even more recipes from you, Steve, during the lockdown?
Ben, I'll try, mate, but it's not easy. We've got, as you know, a blunt knife, a couple of pots and pans, and but we're trying to work on some sort of like lifestyle videos. So we'll see. We'll see. I can't be sure, but we'll certainly be seeing more food videos if this place opens up a bit. It's hard, because you haven't got the interaction with all the foodies that are here. There's not as much stuff to see.
Stuart was talking about the one with JC.
JC in the house that we stayed in, a little Airbnb. It was a sort of guest house. It wasn't an Airbnb at all. Sorry, no, wasn't an Airbnb at all. No. It was a guest house. And I actually had said to her and the family, could I come and film you making masala dosa? And she was, the fact they were quite excited. Oh yes, we'd love you to film it. And so I done all the intro to the video. I said, right, now we're going to go downstairs and we're going to film making masala dosa with JC. And I got downstairs and she said, oh no, I've gone off it. I don't want to do it. And I said, oh, because we've been planning it all morning. I made sure I had continuity, maybe had the same shirt on. I don't know. We planned the videos a little bit, and I said I don't want to push people, but I said, oh JC, can I just film you? I want to learn how to make masala dosa for me. Can I just film the process? And yeah. She said, no problem. So I filmed her making the masala, and I could feel as we were getting into it that she was loosening up, and she probably would have quite enjoyed it, but I just felt she was embarrassed to appear on the camera. What I got from that video is I got to learn a lot about masala dosas and how they're made by a mum that makes them a lot for her family, and she's a very accomplished cook, by the way. And I got to see the whole technique and share it with you if you can see between the lines. What I didn't get was the lovely face. I mean, JC is such a pretty lady, and such a charming family that they were. They have a daughter who's got some issues. She's a little disabled, but she's the sweetest girl. Such a lovely girl, and I would have loved to film the family, but out of respect, you can't, and you can only deal with what you have. So that video, by the way, get across and watch it.
Yes, Stuart said we made it. I'll inbox the results. Cool, that'll be good.
Yes.
Measure Twice said, just wanted to say hello and thank you for the stream. It was enjoyable.
Thank you, Measure Twice.
Annie says, I hope you have a good time in Istanbul, regardless of what is happening.
We're already having a good time, and the people here we're loving.
Yeah, Yo-Yo says, very happy to have caught this live. See you next time.
Thank you, Tammy.
Petri says, you guys enjoy the rest of the day. I always enjoy spending time with you guys.
Well, we enjoy spending time with you as well.
Edward Owen says, thanks.
Edward, great name, by the way. Not Edward.
Claire says, looking forward to the bread making tomorrow.
Yeah, bread making tomorrow, bit of fun. It might be a bit like this one, a little long-winded, so it's not going to be concise, but we'll talk about bread making, and you'll get to see my little kitchen. You can see it in the background there. And
Moon over Miami says, thank you for the live stream. Love chatting, spending time with you. Take care of yourself.
Thank
each other. Much love.
Thank you very much, Moms.
And Stuart says, take care, guys. Love the videos.
Thank you, Stuart. Did we miss any of you there? Annie
says, glad to hear that. Thank you for the stream and to everyone in the chat.
Thank you, Annie. This beer will probably last me another 45 minutes, and then I'll probably fall asleep like a sort of fat cat on the sofa.
Nap and then it'll be good.
Yeah, little.
Nadeem says, take care, guys.
She's in trouble. She'll be sitting on the floor. I'll be taking up both. I've decided to push these two sofas together. Who was it who said so? What I do is I push the two sofas together and I sleep on it, and Michelle sits with her arm up against one of the drawers. Is that the way it works?
I'm in the middle now.
Right, that's the way it works, Michelle. That's the way it works. I've understood. I haven't misunderstood a single thing.
Petri says, have a great day. Moon over Miami says, see you tomorrow.
Thank you, Ben. Thank you, Petri. Measure Twice. Take care, Nadine. Thank you very much, Annie. If I missed anyone, Edwards,
Chris says, thank you for a nice stream.
Love to you all. And anyone that comes in later and sees this, say hello. I will be monitoring this. I'm getting rather a lot of comments at the moment on the channel, so I'm struggling to keep up with it. But on the current streams, I will definitely be saying hello to you. So say hello, share the love. Share the love. Be good.
That's it.
Michelle and I will see you in the next video. Take care.
Bye.